without context.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Without Context podcast. You'll see that Sharky has returned to us from 2016.
Yes, between the recording session last night and the recording session today, I had to shave for work, and I hate it. So I didn't
Everyone
have a
in the
choice in the
comments
matter.
talk about how Sharky looks good, no matter if he has a beard or not.
I can do this though now. My beard hid so much that I can just do this now. And it's just
You're
it
just channeling
disappears.
bold and brash.
Back to looking like my fucking Ed-shaped ass from Ed, Edd n Eddy.
We also have Haley.
Hi.
Haley is
Well,
back
it's
for
me.
another episode.
Yeah.
We're going to actually talk about wrestling, which is why I was making that joke about, welcome to Square Triangle. We're going to specifically talk about how Haley got into wrestling and who she pack bonded with to get there.
People watching the video version of this will know right away based on the t-shirt that I'm currently wearing over top of what I wore to work today.
But we'll start. I guess where we'll start is because a lot of people get into wrestling a lot differently. I have in my brain a core memory of it's like a Saturday Night Main Event from the early 90s. Hulk Hogan is climbing the old blue cage that they had. And he's just climbing it for some reason, and I don't know any context about it. It's just something that's seared into the back of my head. So I'm always curious to know about how other people get into wrestling.
Yeah.
And what's his name?
Well, my story is actually super embarrassing. Longtime listeners of the podcast will remember that we've done an episode where Sharky and Deca explain wrestling to me. And if you go back and watch that, it does not penetrate the thickness of this skull. A girly didn't get it. And then I saw some videos on the Ye Olde Clock app, and now I kind of get it.
Good.
So I have, as Deca so eloquently put, I have pack bonded with one Dominic Mysterio.
I am so sad that I couldn't get my Mommy's Always on Top shirt in time.
I know. It took ages for me to get this shirt when I ordered it
takes a
several
while.
months ago. Even outside of the holiday rush, which will age this video or whatever.
Yeah.
But
I think one of the last without context is that we're doing before the holidays, much like the last session we did for Square Triangle was the last before the new year. That time of year where everybody's busy now.
Yeah.
So I just started seeing super cute videos of Dom being Dom and Rhea being Rhea, and I was just I wish I could go back and read the messages I was sending to Deca of just I get it.
Who is this? What's
Who
his
is this
story?
person? Why is he beefing with his dad? Do we hate his dad?
We
That could be the
actually
way around.
we talked about it. Actually, Deca and I mentioned this last night. We're gonna go on a little lore trip here in this episode. Because the story of Dominic actually begins in roughly 2005, 2006.
Oh, I remember this. Deca told me about this.
Yeah.
I told you very briefly.
This is just going to be
I have his Wikipedia page up on my other screen, so I'm just looking at his stupid little mullet. If you just see me over here just eeing, it's because
that's the most Haley shit you've ever said in your entire life.
What the?
I've got his Wikipedia page open just in case.
Well, I have one on the Judgment Day open. I have one on Dom and Rhea because I don't want to look stupid in front of the listener.
That's valid. Meanwhile, I'm going to say something that's objectively wrong at some point.
Yeah.
I dare you to correct me.
So this all, this all started when we were simping for Rhea Ripley in our group chats and everything. I think even before she arrived in Judgment Day, it was she was just there, and then she joined up with Judgment Day and sort of came out and on her own here as this pseudo leader of this wily band of 4 dudes. And she picked up a little man named Dominic Mysterio.
Every little man's fantasy.
And
I love him, Your
the
Honor.
my favorite thing is like the journey to getting to this point involves, you know, Rhea also choking out Dom with her thighs, which I think is everybody's
Again,
dream
every
here.
small, every little shrimmy boy's fantasy.
I mean, we're gonna look back on this and call it a meet cute.
Yeah.
How did you two meet? Oh well, I was
She
choking him
choked-
out with my thighs.
Yeah, that's what they say at the marriage counseling.
Oh my god.
So I don't even know. I'm
Stop.
thinking about like what the title is episode. I don't even know at this point. So we're just gonna
Haley gets wrestling now.
Haley gets wrestling now. But
With
we
an
mentioned
asterisk. There needs to be an asterisk for reasons I will explain later in the book.
so let's see.
Because I think that angle started like late 2005.
Yeah, so getting to just to kind of set the stage here, he began training for wrestling in 2017. 2 years later, he debuts into the company, WWE, alongside his father, Rey Mysterio, as a father-son tag team. The first father-son tag team to actually win a tag team championship, which is a cool little bit of trivia there. And since then has gone on to do his own thing. Dominic Mysterio had appeared on WWE TV as early back as 2004, 2005 in an infamous match with Rey Mysterio versus Eddie Guerrero, the custody of Dom ladder match, where the custody papers are suspended from a briefcase.
Can we talk for like 1 minute?
Sure.
Yes,
When
absolutely.
Decca shared this piece of information to me, one thing I want the viewers to understand is I am having a difficult time separating art from reality when it comes to wrestling because they use their like, not Rhea, but like Dom's using his like name,
Yes.
sort of.
Mm-hmm.
And I know nothing about these people in their real lives, so everything I see is on wrestling stuff.
Mhm.
And the fact that a company he was born in 1997, so in
Correct.
like
Yes.
2006 he was like
He was like 12.
Yeah.
How in God's name were they like, this is a great idea to
No,
put
we're
this
fucking bad at math.
child.
He's like 8 years old. We're bad
Yeah,
at
yeah,
math
yeah.
there.
a
I'm
small
not worried about it. I said I was gonna say
Like-
something wrong.
even worse, honestly, like why are you putting this like literal baby on TV and making like, did he know that he was like obviously there probably wasn't a question of like paternity for Dom.
We have answers to those questions.
I fully believe. I'm looking it up here because I also have a feeling I know who actually booked this match. I feel like I feel like this is a Vince Russo match, but I'm just clarifying.
Well, if Vince Russo is like the Neil Gaiman of wrestling, in that he needs someone to say, no, that's a stupid idea.
Don't compare him to Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman does not deserve that.
Yes, he. If you watched Good Omens season 2, you'd know.
He's the
He's
He's the Hideo Kojima.
no, he's the J.J. Abrams of TV shows. Ambitious is a word.
I want to be in that writer's room. Like this is
For
why
sure.
I have like literal beef with Rey Mysterio because he and like by extension his wife had to
His
okay
wife?
this storyline
Yeah.
and put their like literal child
Mm-hmm.
in that situation, which like I think you and I talked about it, Decca, that like he
No,
had like
it
actual
fucked with
issues
him.
in his real
Yeah.
life because of this. What did you call it? A ladder match?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Do I
So,
even want to know what one of those are?
so the object of a ladder match is to climb the ladder, grab the thing that's on top, and boom, you win.
Yeah, there's something
But you're
suspended.
also like beating the crud out of each
Yeah,
other.
there's
Yes.
something
And with the
suspended. There's something suspended above the ring. You have to have a ladder to reach it. And yes, the ladder
It's-
is often used as a weapon and stuff like that.
I just remember seeing a clip of like toe-headed blonde baby Dom
Yeah.
just looking like on the verge of tears on national, like I assume this was like a national television
Yes.
broadcast.
It's a pay-per-view, yes.
And a pay-per-view.
Horrendous, absolutely horrendous.
So-
And the fact that like his legal guardians okayed that is why I don't care if their beef right now is an act. I have legitimate real beef with one Rey Mysterio.
Yeah.
That's fucked.
One of the things that like, because I've been, I don't want to say studying, but I got back into wrestling in like 2007-ish. So the angle had long passed, or not long passed, but it's been a couple years. And one of the things that I had looked into around that time is like, yeah, that was fucked. Like, Dom had like actual real issues of like that it's that character bleed thing, right? That I talk about when we talk about like D&D stuff, of like, you don't know what's real and what isn't, and you need that moment to decompress, and I don't think he ever got it. And judging by Sharky's wikiing, he might have an actual answer for that, but like, I don't like, judging by how he acted and how he was after the fact, I don't think he got there for a very long time.
Yeah, I do. So I can't find much about it. I believe for a fact, if I looked into it, you know, maybe it did. Dominic was 8 years old. I don't think he understood that wrestling is a show, not a real thing. Does that now? Question. Here's the thing: does that fit perfectly into how WWE used to do things? Absolutely. They were a shit company back in the early 2000s. I was actually looking up more. Surprisingly, I wanted to see when we lost Eddie Guerrero again.
It was not long after that.
Yeah, Eddie Guerrero died. Eddie Guerrero died in 2005.
Was this the one that you sent me the video where the person like they were doing a stunt and then the stunt went poorly?
No, that was Owen Hart.
Okay. That was. I was like, oh my god.
That was like 1995.
No, Eddie Guerrero. Okay. Eddie Guerrero was a beloved wrestler. Probably one of, I think, my Deca and X's probably our favorite wrestlers. Just in general, probably taken far too young. I mean, he was like still 40s, 50s. He was heart. He had heart. Like, it was just one of those fan favorites. That feud for the custody of Dom was like the last major feud he had. That's all to completion. Like in terms of storyline, because then everything after that was like Survivor Series or Mr. Kennedy, which nobody remembers. And all
that match.
That was as it was starting to get into the bad mid 2000s era.
Yeah.
And then, you know, he was found by his nephew in the hotel room. Eddie Guerrero passed away, which set us off a weird domino effect that eventually leads us to Chris Benoit. And it's just this whole rough time of wrestling.
That made like mainstream
because Chris Benoit,
I remember hearing about that, and my mom, like, I think I read about it in one of my mom's People magazines.
Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero were great friends, and coupled with the fact that Chris Benoit had head trauma that they weren't diagnosing, it all led to a big tragedy.
It was all bad news.
So but back to Dom. He probably could not differentiate, and then 2017, 12 years later.
So like going back to that for a sec, even in having that strong emotion of like, I hate this person, you know, air quotes here because it's a work for Eddie Guerrero, and then like 6 to 13 months later he dies and everyone's mourning. And he's got to be confused at that point,
because the thing is, Eddie and Ray knew each other for a long time. Like, even back before they were both in WWE, back when they were wrestling in WCW and all that, like, they were always together. So Eddie was a member of their family, more or less. And you have this crazy storyline for this 8-year-old where this guy who you've probably called like Uncle Eddie is now saying that he's your dad, and your dad's angry. Like,
not to mention, like, what a weird position to like ask your wife to put herself into. Like, hey babe,
absolutely,
can we pretend that you cheated on me with my very close friend and then are having me raise his son secretly? Like, I'm sorry, but I would love to see the like HR ethics department of this company.
So I want
to feels like an HR.
Let's not get into that. We don't have enough time for that.
I would say that back in 2005, WWE did not have an HR department. Let's just
for sure. We're gonna scoot past that one. We don't have time to process all that.
Let's get to.
I think on a related note, I think that yes, it was probably weird to ask Ray's wife if she would be cool with that. Like, how do you start that conversation? But at the same time, I think there are some wrestlers that they enjoy doing that. I think currently now, Deca, I think Miro and CJ Perry are playing a long personal game with it for themselves, and nobody else is in on the joke.
They're just like edging each other.
Yeah, because Miro's a hot and flexible wife, as she's called in AEW. Her words are
as long as
recruiting.
She's self-describing.
She's recruiting like other wrestlers to fight her husband.
Oh my god!
And I'm like, there, and I'm like, is she doing this to like make Miro like? It's like,
no one else
you have
knows.
a humiliation kink without telling me.
What I'm like,
You have a
I'm thinking, I'm
humiliation
like,
kink.
she's doing this so Miro can like be angry and be attractive again to her, and I'm like, this is just a long con that they're both playing right now.
This is some kink thing that no one else is aware of.
Why did
It's-
I agree to do this podcast with you guys?
But yeah, so it's a weird situation to be in, and it's back in like this weird era of WWE, and then Dominic disappears for a bit. He just
Because he's a literal child.
Yes.
12
Has to
years
go
later,
back- go and do kid things.
12 years later, pops back up, training to be a pro wrestler, and doesn't he?
He doesn't even go into NXT or anything. He just goes right to
He
the main
doesn't
roster.
even. He doesn't even go to like their developmental brand. He goes right
thought
to
he-
the main roster. He goes right.
He's a nepo baby.
This is nepotism. This is Rey Mysterio's nepotism
No,
kicking in.
See, I got confused because eventually he started doing NXT stuff.
Yes,
'cause I
he went
remember
back
that
to-
acronym. Okay.
Yeah, he went back to
Went
NXT
back.
eventually.
But he started as a
Well,
nepo
of course
baby.
he's a nepo baby.
Yeah,
WWE
because the Mysterio name is like famous in Mexico.
Yeah, let's touch on that for a quick second. Rey Mysterio is not the first famous Mysterio. His great uncle, or his uncle, I believe, was a well-known Mexican luchador down in Mexico. He apparently has... Rey Mysterio has a cousin that still
I think
wrestles.
he has his own.
Yeah, yeah, he has a cousin that wrestles under a similar name of Rey Mysterio, just kind of spelled different. Still wrestling as well. So the family itself is rather famous. So he's a third generation wrestler of a well-known like luchador family, which is fantastic. I like family lines in wrestling. So yeah, it just disappears, comes back, just I think gets destroyed for the first few things. Like no,
Yeah.
I
I
keep
running theme.
I keep forgetting
for
it's
my boy.
it was Goldberg's son that was put in the Hurt Locker by Bobby Lashley, not Dominic.
Yeah.
I remember. Okay,
That's so we're gonna stop this for a sec. And there is a difference between what happened with Goldberg's son, who is
not a wrestler.
he's not a wrestler, not a performer. Just got on the turnbuckle and dabbed once, and that's all I remember about him.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Which I would do too. I'm not gonna lie. Anyway, so Goldberg's son is about that age that Dom was,
Yeah.
but
Like a child or an
like a
adult?
child, like maybe a little older. But there is a distinction here that nowadays in wrestling, people are aware that it's an act. Like
Yeah.
people in the 2000s weren't.
Fully
They
aware.
still tried to. They weren't fully aware of like the goings on. So the boy is aware that it's an act. That he's
Okay,
not
got it.
actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
In any
He's.
vein.
I also think he's a little older.
Rest-
I think he's
there-
like 10-ish.
Yeah, there are two periods in wrestling that kind of pull a veil down. It was during the steroid trial in the 90s with Vince McMahon saying like, they accused him of supplying steroids to his performers, and they had to go in and be like, no, and everybody, faces and heels who hated each other, had to sit in a courtroom together and all that, and it kind of like pulled the veil back a little bit in a legal sense. And then mid 2000s, when social media started picking up and, digital cameras and everything started becoming more wide use, it's like, oh, look, I was at this house show and this happened. And it's the same thing they did on TV, or they were filming this, so here's spoilers and like all this stuff.
No.
And it was just like social media, then social media picked up and everybody started learning about all the behind the scenes stuff. And it's like, oh, these guys are just jocks. These guys is jock theater. I keep describing it as.
It's jock theater.
And it's like, okay, so that pulled the veil back, and now everybody knows that it's a drama. It's a
Mhm.
drama with athleticism.
See, and I like the drama. I, to this day, have never watched them actually fight each other. I think that part's too much. But when they're like standing there with the microphones and like somewhat poorly delivering lines about things, like nom 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 nom, give me more.
I mean,
True
some of that
sport.
is the performer. Some of that's the performer. Some of that's the writers.
I am
True
laying blame at
sports
no one's
entertainment
feet.
fan.
It's like I'll listen there and like I'll watch Dom like talk shit to people and be like, "That's so great! And now they're gonna fight." No thanks.
So-
Fast
It's-
forward that.
It's so
I don't want to see him be put into danger.
it's so funny because they're trying to like make it, it's like, oh, this is wrestling, but we're gonna call it sports entertainment, which is kind of like a
Words
new word. It's like, no, man, it's pro wrestling. It's always been pro wrestling. It's just that people know it's fake now.
Always
Just keep
has
calling
been.
it pro wrestling. Like,
Always has been.
but yeah, and then he, as things go on, him and his dad do a bunch of tag team stuff, and then there starts being this little a little rift between them, and then eventually he meets his goth GF, and the rest is history for Dominic.
Can I just say, as someone
Sure.
who knows next to nothing about wrestling, like I know that people dress them and like do all of their probably like design their costumes and
Oh yeah,
stuff.
there's a whole background.
His outfits since joining Judgment Day versus like the stuff he'd wear when he was like a duo with his dad is so much more complimentary to like his skin tone, and like it just, whoever is dressing him now is doing such an incredible job. Minus like, I don't know who designed this shirt, but I feel weird wearing it as a white person.
Yeah.
Because
It is weird.
toes the line. It toes the line. But he wears his own t-shirt on TV, so I'm taking that as somewhat of permission to wear his t-shirt.
He wants you to buy his shirt.
He
So
obviously wants me to buy his merch, and so I bought his merch the second it went on sale.
you know what? I just realized that, Deca, that the Judgment Day's like attire is like
It's very cholo
Nope.
themed.
it's like Crip Blood Cholo style.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
it's very West Coast.
it is.
It's very cute.
And that makes sense because Dom is from,
San Francisco.
the six-
according to this
619.
wiki.
It's a
Or
619.
San Diego, excuse
San Diego,
me.
yeah.
San Diego.
Yeah,
So that checks out.
But yeah, I think the first vast improvement that was made when he joined Judgment Day is I don't like this. I hate when they slick his hair back. It just doesn't work. Like in his picture on Wikipedia, when they actually like let his bangs be down, way better than when it's slicked back. But I totally get in wrestling, like you want less things to like
Hit you in the face.
grab or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But
One of we were actually talking about Dom when we recorded yesterday,
yeah.
as we date our video further, because we both, me, Sharky, and X, all agreed like he's been a workhorse this year. He's
that's
on
what they
all
were
of our
saying.
he's on all of our lists because
Yeah,
he's on
he's-
Raw, he's on SmackDown, he's on NXT, he's doing house shows. He's gonna be, there's a returning wrestler that just came back after like 10 years away from WWE. He's gonna be that person's first opponent after 10 years. And yeah, he was wrestling before, but also he was a drama magnet in that company. So we'll skip that part.
Yeah, it's
but
I mean,
yeah.
he's had titles. He's, has given stuff respectable reign. He's improved in the ring. We were saying like this has been a breakout year for him out of the time that he's been here so far. Like
Mhm.
this has been one of his best years.
Look at it like objectively. Someone who doesn't know wrestling and didn't know anything about wrestling is wearing his merch.
Yeah.
I couldn't name pretty much any other wrestler outside of the Judgment Day. Like they apparently have a new person on their squad and I didn't even know.
Yeah, Mr. Funko Pop.
I'm sorry.
His name is JD McDonald, but the man's head looks like it belongs on a Funko Pop in terms of like
Hold on,
body
I'm
size
looking at-
comparison.
I need that short.
His
Please,
poor
Sharky.
mother. His poor mother.
I keep seeing him and I just keep saying like this man is a Funko Pop. Like this.
But okay.
Can I ask a few like clarifying wrestling questions?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I understand that there's like, you've told me these words, faces and heels,
Mm-hmm.
and we're not supposed to like the Judgment Day,
Mm-hmm.
but they're objectively so cool.
They're one of the better acts, so yes, people are going to
Why
fucking
are we
cheer
not
them.
supposed to like them? Is because they like cheat and do bad stuff? Like
Yes.
that's their shtick.
Classically, yes. The heels are supposed to be the play dirty and use numbers advantages and all that, and it usually only
What-
works when the faces are fucking stupid and don't bring their own backup. But that's the writing for you. So-
What I will say is that Dominic's I almost said Dominic's father, but Eddie Guerrero did all of that
Yeah.
when he was like a baby face, when he was a good guy. He would do all of those
Yeah.
bad guy tactics,
His-
and it's because he was like, oh Eddie, it's that sort of thing.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
the whole thing for Eddie Guerrero that even as the crowd loved him, his whole motto was lie, cheat, and steal. And he won a lot of his matches cheating. So,
Yeah, so I
but
guess
he was lovable. That's why we liked him. Eddie Guerrero was a lovable scamp.
it's a lovable scamp. Yeah.
Mhm.
So the very little that I've seen, which majority of the information I know about wrestling comes from the WWE TikTok page. And them realizing like, oh, this girlie's a slut for the Judgment Day stuff, and like the plot line of complicated relationship with his dad, so he's like rolling with a crowd that like makes him feel valued for himself and found family and all of that other fun Dungeons and Dragons stuff. It seems like Rhea Ripley is super popular. Like
Yes.
when you're
Yes.
Oh.
So my internet shit the bed.
Yeah.
So we're back.
We were
Um,
talking about Rhea and how I fail to understand like heels and faces, because I find as someone who's just like seeing some of these like promotional clips, like Rhea and the Judgment Day seem like cool to me.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then there's other folks who will come on like, I don't know who this Seth freaking Rollins guy is, but who's that? Oh my god, I can't think of his name, but they like yell about it a lot. It's like a name of a place or something. I can't remember.
LA Knight.
That's it.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about that guy. He walks out and he's like, I'm LA Knight. I'm like, great.
He is
Can you
a
shut up now?
it's just the character. It's just the character. A lot of stuff in wrestling comes down to there's a lot of reasons why fans can like you. Are you fun to watch in the ring? Like, can you wrestle in a style that is
Nice.
pretty cool? Do you have a personality? LA Knight comes out kind of like a weird mix between old school Rock and Stone Cold a lot of the time. So he's like harkening back to this previous age of wrestling.
I mean, it is fair that I don't understand like the full appeal of people who are wrestling, because I don't actually watch them wrestle,
Yeah.
because I'm not a big fan of violence. And I think I watched one match where Dom was wrestling and like Rhea had to step in at one point, because I'm sure they're doing this because Dom is considered like a bad guy who like turned on his very famous and very cool Hall of Famer dad or whatever.
Yeah.
And so he's getting like the absolute shit kicked out of him. And it's very upsetting to see, even though I like know it's not real, but it looks
Mhm.
very real because they're very good at what they do. And like she had to step in and like make sure he was okay. And I was like so invested in that moment of like, oh my God, you have to help him. And I'm like, he's not in any danger.
A lot of these guys, when you have a stable like this in wrestling, they're stables, these factions, everybody seems to fill a role. And a lot of times the youngest or like the most inexperienced of the group is usually the guy who is like the shitty
fall guy.
little, he's a fall guy or the shitty little brother. Like if he's getting in trouble, he'll run to the other guys on the team. Like that's his role to play a lot of the time.
I love him.
Yeah, it's a lot of it is just
Can exist. Both of these statements can exist.
yeah, a lot of stuff is just archetypes a lot of the time.
Mhm.
So
I'm looking forward to when they let Dom like kick the shit out of somebody. Like I would watch a match where he like just goes out there. Like I've watched Rhea do a fight,
Mhm.
and it's funny. I know before I knew this, I messaged Decca about it. I was like, she just fights with this like brutality that I don't
Yeah.
see any of the other girls that like wrestle.
That's why she's
Ew.
popular.
Yeah.
And Deca goes, "That's her theme music."
Yeah. This is my brutality. And then she slams and the fucking sparks go,
And then she
the
does her,
fireworks
like,
go off.
"Man, it's so cool." And she's just so cool. And I'm like, why am I supposed to root against her when she's arguably so much cooler than any other girl, except for that girl who put herself in a trash can? That shit was iconic.
Io Sky.
Who she is, but she's amazing.
Io Sky is a gif right now, and she's her and Rhea are just having like fantastic championship runs and everything. But like Io Sky is just wild. Like the trash can off the cage is one of my favorite spots of the year.
The first video I saw of Io Sky was she was talking to, I believe she was blonde, and that's all I know about the other girl.
That does not narrow it down. But it's probably Charlotte.
But she was the champion, and she's like, "You get to be the champion now because I'm literally having a baby." And Io Sky was just like, "Suck it."
No, that's really that's an older video. That's another wrestler, Asuka, and her the champion at the time, Becky Lynch. Two different women, but yeah, she just was like, "Yeah, I can't be champion. I'm about to be a mom." So.
Oh yeah, I was like, "Oh my god, that's so cute!" And then the other girl's reaction was just like, "I get it."
Yeah, Asuka's pretty cool.
I get it.
Asuka's another one that's like really cool, even though she kind of does like the bad guy stuff. Like she sprays poison mist at people.
Goddamn video game character. I love it when wrestling just turns into a video game. Like, that's my favorite kind of wrestling. It's like, yes, the suspension of disbelief. Like,
I have to suspend my disbelief that a dead guy walks and like summons fire and shoots lightning at people. Or that like this guy walks in with a vest and cut off shorts and like drinks beer, and he has just an equal chance of winning this match as the dead guy does, who shoots lightning.
90s and 2000s WWE was wild with The Undertaker and Stone Cold and everything.
I was at a work event today, and they were going over like important dates in that organization's history. And I think they were talking about 1989, which I was like, the year that Taylor Swift was born. But apparently that was the year that Andre the Giant beat Hulk Hogan in some kind of wrestling thing.
WrestleMania 3.
Well, I thought Hogan won that because that was the body slam.
That was the body slam heard around the world,
Where Hulk Hogan picked up Andre the Giant. Hulk Hogan
You're doing great, Haley.
Yeah. Hulk Hogan picked up Andre the Giant, and that's what gets me about wrestling back in the early days, though. It's like, yes, Hulk Hogan picked up Andre the Giant, this mountain of a man, and body slammed him. As if he hadn't done that on 2 other pay-per-views previously.
But millions of people weren't watching.
This was the first, this was one of the WrestleManias, and I think like one of the bigger events, and people were like, "Oh, we weren't there to watch that in our territory," because that's the thing that changed wrestling for the most part, was from, I guess, the time of it starting to
being nationally syndicated.
91, I think, is when the last territory went down. Wrestling was literally like gang warfare with promotions.
I wasn't alive.
They were just like, okay, so from Virginia to South Carolina and to Kentucky, that's ours. This is our promotions area. This is where we host the shows. If you come here, we will literally break your knees. So
I love that wrestling has gone from
gang
Nancy
warfare.
Kerrigan, like Nancy Kerriganing their competitors.
It's very Peaky Blinders.
It really was.
Yeah, so they went from that to, we're gonna pretend to send Dom to jail on, what was it, Christmas or Thanksgiving last year?
Well, the thing was, back then
he was in prison for like 1 minute, and now he's all hardened and wears a bandana on his face.
The thing is, like, back then, because of the nature of it, and because it was kept to certain territories, and there wasn't social media or internet or no national syndication, a lot of the wrestlers seemed more legitimate. Like, it was a lot of strong guys, it was a lot of big guys who could literally like beat you up if you tried to fight them. Like, it was just guys who could hold their own. They weren't acting. But it was all the same thing. It's like, we're gonna go out there, you're gonna take the pin. You guys are going to go for 10 minutes, do whatever. and then we're gonna get on to the next match. Like that's how they kind of ran things. And then when WWF,
Yep.
Vince McMahon's father's company, started,
Correct.
or when Vince got it, he started hiring the wrestlers from all over the territories. So a lot of the territories were losing their big name guys because he was like, I'm going to put you on national TV. And slowly, piece by piece, the territories fell apart and just became this collection of 2 or 3 like national promotions, which then led to one of the hottest points in wrestling, which was the 90s, where you have WWF and WCW.
See, I know about WWF because of because of the lawsuit, because I do environmental stuff and they got sued by World Wildlife Fund.
And that's why they are now
like, we're already WWF.
That's why they are now WWE. They lost to the Pandas.
I was watching a little bit during that ad campaign when WWF was changing their whole the slogan at the time, because they were so edgy and cutting edge, was "Get the F out."
Yeah. It was so funny.
I think about it now, it's really cringe.
It's really so, but a lot of these promotions either conglomerated to WCW or WCCW before that, and it's like, okay, cool, this is where we're getting all like the Southern style wrestling, which is the more hard hitting classic style. And then you have Vince McMahon, who's like, I'm on TV, but we're going to make this like Saturday morning cartoon, the wrestling. And everybody has to have a character or a gimmick, and they have to like be marketable as toys and stuff like that. And that was kind of the dark ages of wrestling for a little bit. So,
did you ever see Glow on Netflix?
The Glorious Ladies of Wrestling.
It's a good watch.
Glow.
So it's a very similar story. The shtick about Glow is that they're all women.
Yes.
Right on. Right on. Sorry, I'm getting a pen so I can write
it's an acronym. It's like the Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling.
Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a similar story of like how everyone needed to have a gimmick, everyone had to have a character. This homebody Southern American is like cosplaying as a Russian during like the Cold War crisis,
or one of the usual things, this Italian guy is playing a Native American. Like,
yeah.
No, Haley, when we did the 1992 Royal Rumble episode,
I remember
there was
about this.
A lot of like, wow, this was definitely that time of WWE.
Was something related to like Desert Storm or something?
It was a whole Desert Storm thing. Like the main event was the Ultimate Warrior versus a Iraqi sympathizer character. Like it was a mess.
There was a whole segment on the Monday Night Raw before where the Iraqi sympathizer Sergeant Slaughter got boots supposedly from Saddam Hussein
himself.
That was the whole segment.
Oh man, I bet he felt really weird on 9/11.
But the thing about wrestling is that you don't have to be an over the top character. But if you still have a character that people can latch onto, they're going to like you a little more. Like, let's say Decca and I were wrestlers, and I'm just going in as me. I can wrestle. There's nothing real, like, unique about it. I'm just the guy here to wrestle. But then Decca comes in with this whole, like, gimmick, like, some whatever, and then it's just, you recognize him. It's like, okay, this is his, like, look. This is how he talks. This is everything about him. You're going to probably be drawn more to Decca. Yeah,
or 10, bro.
Yeah, just like very dumb. Like he's a gimmick. He went to jail for a weekend, and now he's a hardened criminal.
To quote one of my favorite, like abridged anime series, "We didn't go to prison. We went to Holden." There's a big difference.
Yeah, like the whole gimmick was like Dom was like, I'm in prison for a week, and it's made me a hardened criminal, and he's just been a little shit about it the whole time.
I feel like Dom's so I know very little about like his going to prison storyline other than like what a wild decision was made to allow these camera crews into your actual home to kick your actual
Wasn't
son.
their actual home.
WWE owns houses that they can do this in.
It's like a soap opera, right? Where they have the little area. Everything's breakaway.
The only thing that I think was legitimate was back in the late 90s when Stone Cold and Booker T fought in the grocery store, that was like an on the ground camera crew of these two just fighting in a grocery store. Like,
That was funny.
I feel every time I feel like I have a grasp of like what goes on in wrestling.
so-
Sharky says something like these two guys fighting each other in a grocery store. I'm like,
Haley,
what
I
episode
want you
of
to-
Supermarket Sweep did I miss?
no, Haley, I want you to just like, you can probably find a video that just incorporates just that, a grocery store fight. Wrestling in the 90s was wild. Like,
I think that was like
that had to be
2000s.
no, it had to be 2000s because it would be post
Stone
W. It would
Cold
be
and Booker T Supermarket Brawl from
That's
SmackDown in 2001.
so, okay.
That's it.
So just watch this until Stone Cold gets to the milk section. That's all I want you to watch.
Like,
Oh my god, it's showing Vince in very ill-fitting pants calling Booker saying that Stone Cold knows where he is.
yep.
And they're
He's
like, I
on
can't get through to him. And there's a guy in a really 90s, like late 90s, early 2000s sweater that's just like,
Yeah, one of my favorite things about Vince in the late 90s, early 2000s was he was wearing the suits 2 sizes too big. Like
those
that's
are on the Cheerios. He's covered in flour.
Yes. Yep.
I think
Not
that
in the grocery cart. Those things are expensive.
I think what they did, I think
There's
they
just
talked
people shopping.
I think
Yeah.
they talked to the manager to get permission to just do it, but then they paid for all the damage and everything afterwards. But they were just like, just let our guys do whatever.
Can you imagine how expensive this would be today with the price of groceries?
Oh, for sure.
No, I
Like
think
the eggs alone.
Like he's about to smack a. Is he talking into a hot dog?
Yeah.
And now he's about to smash a. Smashing a frozen pizza onto his head.
wait until
Yep.
wait until he gets to the milk section. That's one of my favorite sections of that fight.
Hold on, I'm scrubbing. He maybe I missed it.
No, it's much. It's.
Oh, there we
later in
go.
the fight.
Okay, I see someone. He's just drinking the milk,
He's just drinking.
and by drinking I mean dumping it
full.
onto his chest.
Yes.
Okay, so the segment was done in a full take. It was a one take, which is pretty impressive. They said that
yeah.
it cost between 10K and 15K.
Probably just because, like, there were people in the store.
Yep.
It
I
is
had
one of the best segments, though, between those two characters.
things were so much more simple. Like,
In
I feel
2001.
like
Yeah.
if people fought in a grocery store, people like wouldn't care now. Like, you have to raise the stakes, I think, so much where you
You
have,
have to
like,
pull
this,
out a
like,
gun or something.
But the thing is, like, I think okay, so to understand where we are now to where we came from, between like 2007 to 2015, 2014, wrestling was in an awful place. There was no real like characters. There was one company that everybody only watched, and that was WWE. Everything was kind of forgettable. It was this weird limbo between the edgy 90s, early 2000s attitude era, as they call it, and the modern day of WWE. And it's just like, you remember so many of these 90s and 2000s segments. The grocery store fight, when Stone Cold jumps Vince McMahon when he's in the hospital.
Oh, I've seen clips of that.
He
Yeah,
hit him
he's
with a
like,
bedpan. Donk.
I recently saw that there was a plot line where Vince's daughter got like married off to a man named Triple H.
That is
Like
okay. So
illegitimately, but then they
there
fell
is-
in love in real life, and that's so
no,
cute.
Haley, the story is way more than that.
He like sold her or something.
No, they did get married. They're sure they are married in real life.
Yeah, they're married in real life. Which is
Triple
what I
H married into the company to take over the company. It's fantastic. It's a great
like. Yeah.
The long
because
game.
he's playing the
Because
long
she
game.
had to marry somebody who was like, there was some kind of ceremony. And it was like only somebody in
Well,
the
that's all-
McMahon family
so that's
can
all-
object to this marriage. And he's like, I married her when she was drunk in Vegas last night. I'm like,
That's all for-
problematic.
That's all for the storyline. But like,
Yes. Yes.
it's no, but it's worse because I think during that time, Deca, is that was when he was dating China still, and they actually
Yes.
did get married.
I don't know if that's gonna be a citation needed.
That's my citation.
But I know
Okay,
he
but
was
they were at
dating
least
Hold on,
somebody.
is
he
his
was
name Triple H.
he was
Yeah.
he was dating another wrestler, this wrestler China, and then everything with him and Stephanie was him cheating on her for Stephanie. And then they tied it into this whole thing. And he eventually married Stephanie for real.
Yeah, Triple H and then girlfriend Chyna in April of 1999.
Yep.
McMahon
Helmsley.
Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
Hell in
so
a
yeah.
cell.
Yeah, it was wild. It was kind of a Wild West where they did a lot of shit like that.
This was because of the addition of a man that we mentioned earlier named Vince Russo.
Yeah.
And Vince Russo can die in a fire. I will say that on this podcast. This man has killed one company and almost killed another.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say he killed somebody.
No, Vince Russo is directly responsible for what happened to WCW closing down, and then he almost killed another company called TNA because he thinks of himself as this top creative head, and he's actually just awful.
He's not great. He's not. He needs a no guy, just like Hideo Kojima, just like everyone else I mentioned earlier.
He's so high on his own supply half the time, and he writes like shock TV, which is what kills wrestling companies, because it's like, oh, it's just random bullshit coming out week by week now, just to
he needs
surprise
to stop
us.
And go. He needs to stop and go write Survivor.
Yes.
Speaking of writing, is it all right if we talk a little bit about Judgment Day and where we think that storyline is going to go?
We talked about this last night, Deca.
Well, you're going to get the girly pop perspective, which I don't think you have.
No.
So
I'm the closest we're getting to the girly pop, so go for it.
All right, so let's set the stage real quick. Right now, Rhea Ripley is women's champion. Finn and Damian Priest are undisputed tag team champions. Damian Priest has a get out of bad writing free card that we call the Money in the Bank.
That's the suitcase I see.
That's a suitcase. And they have Dominic, who just lost his North American title at the last big event, and JD McDonald, who is half loved, half hated by Judgment Day. So
who doesn't like him?
Damian Priest does not like JD McDonald.
Do we think that the reason that JD McDonough is on the team is because they're trying to break up the Judgment Day or end that storyline? There's
actual history. Finn trained so
they don't like each other for real.
No, Finn Balor trained JD as in real life. He trained him as a wrestler. There's a history there. He is one of Finn Balor's students. And so he's like, yeah, come on in. But there's this tension between Finn and Damian, because Finn was chasing the titles for a little while, and that Money in the Bank is, I can cash in this at any time for a title match.
Oh.
So are you going to cash in to steal my title when I get it, or are you going to cash in so you get the title and I don't? So there was this whole tension going on, and meanwhile Rhea's like, I'm trying to keep us all together and everything.
There's a lot of will they won't they with the men of Judgment Day.
Yes.
I feel like I know that there was some gentleman, I will never know who it is because he's not in the Judgment Day, and I don't know anyone else's name outside of the Judgment Day.
Well, sure.
But whoever it was like, who is the leader of the Judgment Day? Because I don't think it's Mommy. I'm like, first of all, how dare you even speak to Rhea, Mr. Man?
There's a theory, or there's an underlying thing for the Judgment Day, because originally it was created by a performer named Edge, who then they
kicked him out.
They brought Finn in, and then they kicked him out. So Judgment Day is built upon taking out the guy before you.
They're Sith. Oh my god, that's Sith. Why I like these guys. They're Sith Lords.
So now the question is Damian leading it?
Of two.
Is Damian leading it, or is Finn leading it? So who is going to try to overtake? I feel like somebody's going to try to overthrow the other one. But they are Sith Lords.
They're going to start fighting each other because there's two. They both want the power, but who's going to come and actually get the power? The power couple, Rhea and Dom.
Yeah, the thing about it, once stables or factions,
up in the wrestling, I'm going to be so sad.
Yeah, once stables hit a certain amount of time, they eventually do break up. So
I know, and it's stupid because I like them a lot.
The other thing about it is that there's a certain production trick that a lot of that the WWE production will use when there's a bad guy but they're not being booed is that they'll pipe in boos to make it sound, to make the people on TV to make it, at least on TV, sound like, oh, this guy is getting, you know,
Booed
pelted by the
villain.
crowd. But if you actually look in the crowd, everyone's like ambivalent at best.
When when I go to a house show, me and X will usually go to house shows whenever they show up here in Norfolk. And if it's a recorded one that's on TV, they'll be talking and everybody will be cheering. But then if you go home and watch the episode, they're booing. But I know for a fact that everybody's cheering in the arena at that point in time. So
Wait a minute.
So
You can go and watch them do the show.
yes,
Like,
whenever they show up in your area, they have like a travel list.
oh no, she's looking at the schedule right now.
It gets loud. Like,
It does.
It does get
well,
very
I'll
loud.
I'll just wear
Yes.
nice fancy
Yeah.
headphones.
That's
Upcoming
good.
featured. Okay.
So-
That's not.
But
so
there
the
is a
point of
difference.
me-
There is a difference
The
though.
point of me
There are
there's
live
live shows.
There's live
and then-
shows which are on TV, but then there are just house shows which are just they come to the building, they put on a little fan show for the night, and then they leave and hit the road again.
Yeah. And then there's also premium live events, which are the pay-per-views. Oh,
They're going
she
to be
found
in
something.
Spokane in January. Spokane and Wenatchee, but that's way too far away. That's on the other side of the state. I
So-
need them to come to Seattle.
So the reason I brought that up to begin with is when Dominic gets on and people are booing the shit out of him, yeah, they turn it up a little bit, but that's actual people booing him.
that's
People
legitimate.
are wrong.
I was
that's
in that.
another reason
I was
I'm
in that
so-
arena.
That's another reason why I'm like, so, like, I do not wear this shirt in public. Like, that's no
Yeah.
shade, no tea to you, Dom. Wow, I love you. You're great. I'm afraid people are gonna think I know more about wrestling than I do when it's literally
Valid.
just he is baby girl and I love him.
Yes, correct.
And
It's really hard to find the fans who will recognize you, and then when you say, "Oh yeah, he's baby girl," and be like, "Oh sweet, I think so too."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh
so
my god.
so
They're
yeah,
gonna be-
that's valid.
They're gonna. So when Emery and I relocate eventually, there's a regular. They come to where we want to live all the time. Road to WrestleMania, whatever that is.
It's just
It
WrestleMania
doesn't seem
is
like they
their-
come to. Maybe because I don't want to say that on the podcast.
The
I'm gonna
road
keep
to
that
Wrestle-
thought to myself.
the road to WrestleMania is just their TV episodes that are building up to their big like year event.
Mhm.
They're
But-
going to France.
Yeah, they go
Yes.
all over the world.
I did see that they were in Saudi Arabia, and I was like, "That's a bold move for the
We
girlies."
do not cover
We do-
those events on Square Triangle because we do not need the blood money.
Yeah.
They signed like
I love
They're
that.
also not paying me. So
they signed
love
like
that.
what, a 10-year deal, and I'm like, bro, why the fuck? And it's like the women wrestlers, when they go there, they have to wear like the full like sleeved
Full-
up like stuff, and I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Like,
Yeah,
and
I
you
have
can't.
some
And the
sports
thing,
thoughts about
the
that.
nature of the business is like, no, I'm not going to do that. And if you're a champion, they're like, okay. And then the next event that's here in the States, you're losing that title. They're like,
That's so shitty.
because you are,
Like you're not allowed to have opinions and be a wrestler.
you
you're allowed
have
to have
a,
opinions.
You
You're
have
just
a-
gonna lose opportunities for having
because
them.
your role
They can't
is,
have an HR department. That's fully illegal.
you're an independent contractor according to WWE. So
they get
I
around
remember
it.
this.
that's their whole thing. They are independent. They don't pay for your travel. They don't pay for your travel. They don't give you health care. So, and the thing is, your role in that company is based on how much somebody likes you in that writing room.
So they
So,
hit people with ladders and metal chairs, and they don't provide.
when
them
they go
health
into the back, they
insurance.
get a nice little checkup by WWE's doctors, and it's like, "Are you feeling any pain?" Nope. Okay, get out. It's like, that's why
There's more than that. Like I've seen where you know, so if someone gets busted up bad enough, they'll really quick and dirty stitch them up.
yeah, but they'll do a lot of stuff to make sure you're okay when you leave the arena. But if it's like an injury thing, then you know they do, I guess, cover a little bit of it.
I
That's
gave
why-
them money.
They have a surgeon.
I gave
Yeah.
them money.
I like AEW for the fact that Tony Khan, whatever you think about him as a booker or a promoter, he covers his guys. Like, even if they're out for a year for an injury, he will pay every one of those bills for them. He is giving money to wrestlers who are deceased, like their family. He is still giving them money to take care of them.
All right, who's the baby girl of the AEW? I need to know who's baby girl over there.
He is the.
Are we gonna do like a smash pass or baby girl episode with wrestler?
To be fair, if you want another goth GF that is a champion, Julia Hart is a good place to start.
Look, I love Rhea, but I am tragically hetero, so I need someone who is Dom Mysterio baby girl.
Have you ever seen
like
what?
a pathetic not that I think you're pathetic, Dom, but like a pathetic little baby boy, sweet baby angel.
You might like Wheeler. You might like Wheeler Yuta.
It's kind of a similar role, actually.
Yeah,
how do you say Will what?
Wheeler. Like Joey Wheeler.
Duel Monsters. Okay, Wheeler. Is it? Nope.
Utah.
Okay, he's popping up on my screen.
Basically, he is the young guy of a group of three veterans, and they beat him up before matches.
That's so mean.
But it's to help him get tougher. Like,
oh my god, his real name is Paul.
You want to know? So Haley, here's the thing. You want to know what's hilarious? Finn Balor of the Judgment Day. His real name is Fergal.
You're joking.
Nope, his name is Fergal Devitt.
Fergal Devitt.
Hold the phone. Hold on.
He got
find
Finn Balor
really quickly.
Finn Balor got that jacked to have people stop calling him Fergal.
This is a goldmine for reaction images and shorts.
Okay,
well,
Damien
also,
has a normal name.
Yeah, I think Rhea's name is also. Oh, did I freeze again?
That's
Fergal. Okay, Damien has a normal name, and Rhea has a cool name.
Yeah, Rhea's real name is like Demi Bennett or something.
Yes. Oh my god, these people are so much younger than me and so much more accomplished.
I actually don't know. What is Damien Priest's?
Luis Martinez.
I'm actually not surprised.
It's like, his name for years was Punishment Martinez.
Yeah.
Good for him.
He showed up in WWE with that name, and then they were like, we don't like you having a name that we don't have trademarked, so here's your new name.
Lol. I do have a couple of final questions. I know we're probably getting close to that mark.
Yeah.
Sure.
How long do we think the Judgment Day has left before the writers are going to take my cool, fun hobby away from me?
We talked about this last night, Deca, and I'm going to bring it up.
Well, or Sharky, we could say you should watch the newest episode of Square Triangle.
We could,
to get
but most
some more
people
insight on that.
But
or you
I
can.
I don't
have to explain
remember.
it to me like it's like I'm dumb.
So Damian Priest has the Money in the Bank, which WWE created. That if they ever wrote themselves into a corner that they were not satisfied with for whoever was going to be champion, the person could cash in as a fallback plan to be like, okay, now we can write our show based around him instead of this other guy. It's to
like
get
in
out of
soap
bad
operas.
writing free.
It's like
a
in soap
Deus
operas
Ex
when
Machina.
someone's
Yes.
It's like in soap operas when someone suddenly gets amnesia.
Yes.
It's like when Hamlet was saved from the pirates and got back to Denmark.
I don't know Shakespeare, but okay.
I love that we have. It's a way to write us out of a corner in wrestling. It's like soap operas. And like, actually, the way I'm going to understand this is with Shakespeare.
Yes.
I think Shakespeare, if you ever watched wrestling and understood the process behind it, would have an aneurysm. But
I think he would like it, honestly.
I think Shakespeare would
wrestling.
probably write for wrestling if he
Everyone,
Oh my God.
Shakespeare is full of fart and piss jokes. He's got
is.
this.
So
Yeah, he would be a great writer.
Damian Priest currently has the Money in the Bank. There's another story going on in WWE right now of a character named Cody Rhodes.
Yep,
who is chasing the undisputed base title. He wants the two belts. He wants the two belts that their top guy Roman Reigns has right now.
Is Cody Rhodes the guy with like the horrendous blonde hair?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And he's fighting the tribal chief, or he's chasing the titles of the tribal chief Roman Reigns.
Are we okay with him being called that? Is that an okay thing for him to be called?
That's something he did.
It's something he did. He is naturally Samoan. Like that's something that he chose for himself.
That was my.
He is another wrestling family.
He's from a dynasty. Like that's a wrestling that has
know-
like 3 branches of fucking wrestlers.
All I know is there's this like bald man in a suit that's like,
Paul
how dare you
Heyman.
speak about the tribal chief like that? I'm like, are you supposed to be saying that, sir?
Carrying back to what we're talking about, Paul Heyman used to run a promotion that eventually closed down, and he joined WWE. So
Is that the bald man?
yes,
That's the bald man.
that is the wise
Okay,
man,
thank
Paul
you.
Heyman. But Cody's story is chasing Roman's titles.
It's fine. He's
I'm
Jewish.
here
It is-
to finish the story.
It's
Correct.
the one title that his father, Dusty Rhodes, back in the 80s, was never able to acquire. So he's going to try to get that title for his family. What I think is going to happen, because Cody Rhodes started another company during his time away from WWE, which we now know as AEW. He started the rival promotion and then came back to WWE. I believe
Finish the story.
he's going to finish the story. He's going to beat Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40 next year. He is going to have the belt for 30 seconds before Damian Priest cashes it. And it's going to be because Triple H likes Judgment Day. He likes Damian Priest, and I think this would be the biggest middle finger to anybody thinking that they can make another company opposing WWE.
If this is happening, like if you think this is going to happen on a show, Sharky, you have to text me.
Oh,
I will
I'll be,
watch it.
more than likely I'll be out watching WrestleMania, but it's just like
When is that? When is the WrestleMania?
It's in like April.
I think it's like April
Okay,
every year.
I have time. I have time.
Yeah, there's
I
plenty of time.
usually go out to my buddy's house to watch it, but I'll keep you
Is
posted
it
if my
WrestleMania 40?
yes.
Yes.
It is
It's in
April
Philly.
6th and 7th
And that's
in
the thing.
Philly.
Cody Rhodes is the American Nightmare, and you're having it in Philly, where it's like America, and I'm like they're
Bing
gonna
bong,
put
fuck your life.
the belt on Cody for 30 seconds, and then Damian Priest is going to cash in to ruin.
Damian Priest
his
is probably
night.
needs to leave. Damian Priest needs to leave in a SWAT vest so he doesn't get knifed.
Yeah.
Do you think if that happens, do you think it's gonna be something where like Finn and Rhea and Dom and this JD guy apparently need to know now? Or do you think they'll get involved? Or are you not allowed to get involved in a fight like that?
What will probably happen, which is what has happened traditionally when someone who runs a stable has the belt, has the Money in the Bank, is
The
that
backstabbing.
they'll go soften him up first, and they'll
Yeah.
go soften up the champion, and then he'll come out and cash in.
Because the cash in can
So they'll
happen at any time. So
like Cody,
Co-
like
Cody
if
puts on a
wrestling
war.
were-
He puts on a war with Roman Reigns. He's injured. He's just won. Judgment Day jumps the shit out of him, throws him through barricades, hits him with
Oh my
chairs, and then
God,
Damian
I'm
Priest is
putting
like,
this on my
"I'm here,
calendar."
boys." But now there's
I just want to
another.
see Dom have a good time.
But there's
That's all I
another
want.
wrench thrown into the plans now with CM Punk coming back after 10 years and going for
remember that.
another title that they have, because they technically have 3 main titles now, but it's going to be eventually 2 because they have 2 different shows.
How
Uh,
long is Money in the Bank good for, and how many people can
1
have
year.
Money in the Bank?
1 year.
1 year, one person.
One male, one female, and then 1 year.
Who's got the girl suitcase?
Io
Io cashed in.
cashed that in. Yeah, that's
The-
how she
Io
got it.
cashed it in and won the title, which is what she has right now.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
But there's another feud that's about to go down with the other like top belt holder, and I'm like, if they don't want to put the belt on CM Punk, but they don't want to keep it on Seth, then Damian can cash in and get another title to tie into their stuff without fucking over Cody. But I fully believe they're gonna
And
fuck over
then-
Cody. Like,
And then when Damien has the title, Finn's gonna be like, "You're too focused on titles," and then the whole. I also don't like that it's called a stable because it implies that they're like horses when they're people.
What I
there's
think-
other
Yeah.
interpretations.
what I think is going to happen though is if they hold their tag team titles to WrestleMania, I think they're going to lose at night 1, which may cause some friction. And then when Damian cashes in, the full jealousy kicks in on Finn.
He wins the title, and then they fight each other for fun.
Yeah, it's like fuck, we
Yeah.
lost our tag team titles, and then he cashed in, he became world champion. I can't have that. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
and I mean,
Why
Damian has
can't we be
Damian's
friends?
proved that he can be a singles performer by himself, and the crowd like loves him too. He has everything going for
He's
him.
a very good performer. He's good on the mic.
Yeah, he does a really good job when he has to do like the talking part.
He has a presence.
I love Dom, don't get me wrong, but he could work on like when he has to speak.
Yeah.
because he just gets
Yeah.
this like little boy pout, which is very cute and adorable.
Well, he's being booed out the building. Like I was at the live show and like
He can't even speak over
the
it 'cause
audience
everyone's so
cannot
upset.
they will not let him talk. Like it
Which
will
is so dumb
get
because he's
so
so cute.
loud. But there
It's
might be
really
some
funny.
drama. There might be some drama in the Judgment Day coming up because on the last NXT big event, he lost his North American title.
Yes, I
in
saw
the thing.
that on
And then
Twitter.
there was a thing that went up on Twitter, like we caught up with him after his match, and he's like, "I'm always there for them. Where was Judgment Day during my title match?" Like
That is
he's
true.
so like he's starting to be like, "I'm always there for them, and they're not here for me." So there might be some drama starting.
I just have to say, if they have him go back to hang out with his dad, who like, I'm
His
gonna
dad-
be really big mad. I'm gonna
his
be
dad
really
whipped him.
big mad.
His dad whipped him in a match. They had a match, and he took off his belt and started spanking him with it. And it was, I'm
See,
like,
that's
I
why I
love
don't watch the
wrestling.
fight part.
I love wrestling so much.
It's so stupid, but it was really funny. As somebody who also, let's not go into that.
I just like the storyline of Dom has a shitty dad and he's running with the quote unquote bad crowd right now, but look how much he's like grown and accomplished in that time, and he's like becoming his own person separate from his dad, and like found family is an important trope to me. So
Yeah.
I
fuck you, Rey Mysterio.
I
hate
think-
you.
I think if Dom breaks off the Judgment Day, I could see him going back to NXT for a little bit, like full time, instead of going through all three
Just
shows.
give him a place to
Grow.
his stuff. Yeah.
hmm
I think throwing him onto the main roster, he's come into it a lot. Like he's definitely gotten comfortable with it, but I think having a more controlled environment would be better for him. And yeah, I mean, Judgment Day has been involved in a lot of stuff too. Like Judgment Day has been written as such a threat to baby faces in the company. Like they're always the numbers advantage and stuff like that. That they basically had to do like an Avengers team up of all like the top good guys to take on Judgment Day, because Judgment Day was always so ahead of the rest of the roster.
They're well dressed.
So it's like, hey, we're gonna have this match, the four of us guys against like the four top like good guys in the company. And
I'm telling you, well dressed and a coordinated theme can take you
absolutely.
places.
That's
Tricky
why.
places.
That's why in AEW, like factions like House of Black, like their just aesthetic makes them so cool to fucking watch together. And it's just like,
It's just a bunch of like dark metal, black metal.
yeah, it's like a bunch of
black metal crowd.
yeah, it's like black metal guys like pagan masks and everything. And I'm like, their aesthetic is just, but they have the female with them too. They have Julia Hart with them, who's like, she's a small goth girl that they've corrupted to join them. So,
All right, what is this called?
AEW,
House of
But
Black.
what's the
House of Black.
it came right up.
And yeah, so the thing about Julia Hart is that she's very young. She's what, 22?
She's
Yeah,
younger
she's-
than Dom.
She's baby. But she started with like this cheerleader gimmick and everything, because like she was a varsity
There's not even a
cheerleader.
picture of her on the wiki.
She was a like varsity cheerleader who came into wrestling, and
Mhm.
they hit her with like some corrupting like mist, because I love wrestling's little like fantasy elements that they have. And then she joined
That
the
is a child.
then she joined the
Yes,
metal crew,
you're
and
correct.
if you're looking at the picture, that big tattooed like beard guy next to her is basically her travel dad. Him and his wife take care of her on the road.
All I know is there's a photo of her standing on the row,
Yeah, that's what she does.
and she's just like,
Yeah,
and has this cool head.
Yeah,
she's
all
like,
right,
yeah,
all
she's
right.
like the
I do think
harbinger.
her cheerleader thing is cute too.
She's
She was
like the
cute as a little
harbinger
cheerleader.
of these three like metal like dudes. But if you look at them up, there's this like big tattooed guy with a beard, and he's like, yeah, I'm basically her dad on the road. Like
Is
me and my
that
wife.
Malachi Black?
No, it's
no, it's the other guy,
Brody King.
All right, I'm
Brody
trying.
King.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
So it's that guy and his wife. They're like, this is our travel daughter, and we're going to take care of her.
He's got a really spooky zombie face on his leg.
Yeah.
Yes. He's fully like a metal dad.
It's so funny though, because he's usually out like ringside whenever Julia's wrestling, and if Julia loses, he'll like throw her over his shoulder and just carry her out
You
back.
didn't tell me that Rhea's real life boyfriend was in that team.
Oh yeah. I forgot about that.
Yep, but yeah,
All right,
Buddy
right.
Matthews. So
Also in a semi-goth stable.
yeah,
All right. I'll have to look into
But, like,
it, but
the characters in wrestling are great. If you can have a character that works for you. One of the running things said about wrestling is that the closer you are to yourself, the better the character is. Like if you can blend, if you're an exaggerated version of yourself.
If you could turn yourself up to 11, that's the best character.
Yeah, and that's why Stone Cold was the way that he was. That's why The Rock was the way that he was.
For better or worse, I'd say for Stone Cold.
Yeah, for better.
What was the name of the guy that would do the step into a Slim Jim?
Macho Man.
That was a gimmick.
He's a mod in Skyrim where you can turn all of the dragons.
Oh, into the Macho Man.
Correct.
So that was also
R.I.P.
just tying that back to the 92 Royal Rumble, Macho Man cracking somebody with a fake like toy scepter and legitimately knocking him out as a receipt for something he did to him earlier. Because if you,
I don't think we have time to unpack that.
Yeah, just saying, wrestlers have like a code of conduct basically, where if you hurt somebody, at some point they're going to give you what they call a receipt, and that is where they're going to hurt you. So he comes out, takes this scepter, hits the guy who's in the world title match, by the way.
Kills him.
No, he doesn't kill him. He legit knocks him out.
Like unconscious?
Like unconscious.
Like he like unconscious. So when he gets pinned, he's supposed to kick out because he's supposed to win the match to keep the title, and he doesn't kick out. So the other guy wins.
Because so they just have to go with it.
They have to just go with it.
Amazing. See, that's Macho
Man,
what I like about wrestling.
Macho Man hit him and then booked it out of the arena. Like he got to his car and he's like, I'm going to go to where we're going to be tomorrow. I'm leaving before he gets consciousness back.
There was a backstage segment where he's legitimately packing his bags. And, you know, some of it's real, some of it's for the camera, but, like, he is legitimately, like, getting his shit ready and, like, leaving.
Well, I think the segment, because the thing is, he was supposed to hit him to, like, draw the drag.
Him too hard.
He intentionally hit him too hard. But, like, he was supposed to hit him and then have a segment of, like, him trying to leave the arena. So it's like, yes, I'm doing this for the storyline, but I'm also trying to get the hell out of this arena. So... God, that was a weird pay-per-view that we watched.
Yeah,
there was a whole segment of a man yelling at a parrot. It was a weird show. Like,
I think a man yelling at a parrot is a good place for us to stop.
There's something we almost always end our wrestling shows with, and I'm gonna parrot it here as well. Wrestling's just in a good place. Like wrestling right now is in a good place where people, even not like non-fans, will get into it for one reason or another.
Yeah,
like his dad's baby girl.
The advent of social media has made it really like. There's some things that are like I don't like about the whole social media thing, and you know when wrestlers kind of go into business for themselves.
It ruins a lot of surprises too, because there's entire like websites. We call them dirt sheets
to spoiling,
to be like, hey, we talked to somebody backstage and they told us that this is going to be happening.
Oh, like Reality Steve.
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, because wrestling's scripted too, it's like, yeah, we have reports that, you know, this is gonna happen, and then it happens and you're like, well, shit. So we got spoiled on that. Or it's like, hey, we're expecting a big return tonight and we have people telling us it's this guy. Like, and I'm like, can you guys just shut the fuck up?
Some of the fun out of it.
We saw this guy at the airport. What's he gonna do at the pay-per-view?
Yeah, it's like, hey, guess who landed in the city that the pay-per-view is being at? And it's like this guy who's been gone for like 6 months, and it's like, okay. It's like, okay, we know who's returning.
I will say that has had like this weird like reverse effect sometimes where it'll get more people to watch it because they're like, yeah, I want to see this guy.
I mean, that's why the last pay-per-view for WWE was in Chicago, where CM Punk is from, and he's like a big hometown hero there. So everybody watched that because they're like, are they bringing Punk back? And they did. End of the show, he showed up, walked out. He's like, I'm back. And then it's like, cool.
Seth Rollins flipped him off and said, I'm going to fuck you up.
Yeah. I love it. But I love it. It's just like, I would love to legitimately be spoiled or legitimately be surprised every now and then, and sometimes they have done it. Sometimes, but like being somebody who watches so much wrestling and talks about so much wrestling, we're in the know about like how booking minds think and how companies work their watchers now, where it's like, okay, well, I'm going to turn my brain off a little bit to enjoy this for the spectacle.
If you ever want someone to be shocked and surprised about something wrestling, you know how to reach me.
We have one pay-per-view. We have one pay-per-view coming out at the end of December. It's the big year. It's probably what we're going to be considering like the big season finale of AEW. And I'll be watching that. I'll be watching that in our Discord. So
okay,
that's a World's End. So that'll be our last episode for the year too for a Square Triangle.
Yeah. But yeah, so like I said before we got off of that tangent, like wrestling's in a good place. Like if you like a certain show, watch it. Like you don't have to go and shit on yuck somebody else's yums.
Yeah.
You just go watch what you like.
Absolutely. That's the thing. It's like the tribalism's so bad in wrestling. Like my company's the best, your company sucks, and it's like, and we're sitting here like that the meme of like, wow, 2 cakes. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
it's just it's like I have a cake, I hate cake, and we're just wow, 2 cakes. Like we're watching 2 different shows because wrestling's in a fantastic place right now. But yeah, Haley, so everything that we talked about, do you understand wrestling a little bit better, or are you just more surprised?
I learned that there probably should be some better oversight in the industry and better rights for workers.
There is now. It's just the fact that they're
still considered independent contractors, and
I don't think that will ever.
I'm going to be exploring.
I don't think that will ever change. You have to unionize probably, but AEW is doing good. They're actually employing wrestlers to work for them, not just contracting them out.
I also learned that Dom is baby girl, and if that's controversial, I don't want to be correct, and I can't go to a live show because I would be excited to see him, and I'd probably get punched in the face. Or just called like, oh, you're just a simp, but I'll be like, yes, I am.
Definitely take your husband with you.
I just think we'll watch on the TV.
Fair enough.
I'll watch the TikToks. I'll stick on TikTok for now. It's not quite a safe enough space for me to reach my true baby girl dreams.
Yeah.
Without context, goes to the wrestling show.
Yep. Without context.
My God.
But yeah, wrestling is fun.
I'll have to actually watch people fight at some point, but
wrestling
that point is not now.
Wrestling, I think, is at its best when it knows that it's fake, and it's just like embrace the fantasy of it. You know, if you have if you have a wrestler who can spit a poison mist into their opponent's face, like that's just when I'm like, I love this fucking sport. It's so funny. It's like
you could figure out a way to finagle that, but I digress. We need to wrap up the show.
Yeah. But yeah,
without podcast context.
Well, yeah, this is our last one for the year. Hope everybody again has a good holiday season and a good and safe Happy New Year's. We'll be back at some point in January with this show, hopefully on a more regular basis. I know we've missed a bunch of episodes over the last few months, but life has just kind of been all over the place.
We're all adults with working jobs.
Yeah, and Square Triangle only happens whenever an event happens, so that one's understandable. But we're going to try to be back more regularly with more conversations and stuff like that. So thank you all for joining us for, I believe, our 2nd year of this podcast.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I believe it's our 2nd year, right?
Yeah, we started right before I started my current job, which would have been middle of 2022, and here we are at the end of 2023. So, year 2, baby.
Wild. Year 2 of the Without Context podcast.
Looks like we made it. Look how far we've come, my baby.
Solid choice of Shania Twain. We might have took a long way.
Anyway, before we get YMCA'd.
Yeah. YMCA'd. Bye, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll see you all in 2024.
Mommy's always on top.